Welcome, and thank you for joining Shelton Law Associates as we present A to Z, 5 Steps of Due Diligence. My name is Christina McAmis. I'm one of the attorneys with the firm, and I'll be presenting today. Today's presentation is an overview of the 5 steps of due diligence. Normally this presentation is about 45 minutes long and in front of a live audience. So I'll be adjusting to virtual technology today, so I hope you give me a little grace, as well as moving along very quickly to cover all of the topics. Now, we can help with all areas that I discuss in this presentation with a one-on-one consultation. It's free and no obligation. The number that you would want to call is 512-535-0090. You can also text in your questions throughout the presentation, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. That number again is 512-535-0090. The topics we'll be covering today include funding, what pros to consult and win, the roles and responsibilities of a franchisee, and what questions to ask other Zs in the system, which is short for franchisees, and what questions that you want to ask the franchisor, which we've abbreviated to ZOR. Funding your franchise. There are many ways and many options as far as funding for your franchise. Here are a few of them. You can grab a loan from either your IRA or your 401k plan. You can do the Small Business Administration loans, SBA loans. You can go through a bank or credit union for your loan. You can use unsecured lines of credit, although that normally leads to a higher interest rate. You can also self-fund using your savings, using your 401 or IRA, and doing a rollover or a Roths. Now, you'll note that the last bullet point on this slide that I'm going to talk about is the home equity line of credit. The reason that this is the last bullet point on this slide is because it's not the recommended way of funding your franchise. And if you're thinking of using your home equity line of credit to fund your franchise, we would highly recommend that you talk to a financial planner to make sure that that's a sound decision for your financial future. Step 2, consulting the pros. Which pros do you want to consult with first? Well, funding, that's your first stop. You need to know what your budget is and what your working capital will be to be able to know what system you should be looking at. And so speaking to your funding also can take a long time, and so it is a good first place to start. Next, you would want to talk to a franchise consultant. Now, franchise consultants are the matchmakers of the franchise industry. They work with you very closely. They can represent anywhere between a couple of brands and a big variety of brands. And so they can show you anything that they are any brand that they are working with. And that means that when you are talking to them and they're working with you to find the brand that fits for you, that you can talk to more than one of them at a time. So it's not a one-shop stop. The other thing that I want to mention about franchise consultants is while they're working with you, they're really trying to match you with a brand that is going to be the right fit for you. So the more honest you can be with them and the more forthcoming with information you can be, the better that they can match you to a franchise system that is going to work good for you. And a little bit about the franchise relationship is many times the franchise relationship can last for a term of up to 10 years or even longer. And so it's someone you're going to be working closely with, the franchisor, and you need to make sure that you're going to work well together. We've seen already during COVID-19 and other big changes in the economy or even in a particular state that the best way to weather the storm, so to speak, is for the franchisor and the franchisee to communicate well together and to work well together because it's for mutual success. It should be a triple win scenario where the franchisor is winning, the franchisee is winning, and then of course the consumer or the client is winning as well. And so really working together with your franchisor is important. So you want to make sure that it's a good match for you and what your goals are and what what your business strategy is. The next person that you will want to consult with would be an accountant or a CPA financial planner. We'll talk about more bullet pointed details in just a moment. Also, a franchise attorney. We'll talk about what services franchise attorneys can offer and what the benefits are of those services. And then finally, we will cover CCIM. Now, CCIM is a certified commercial real estate expert, and they have certain credentials as well as some really amazing information. Again, we'll go over that in detail in just a moment. So consulting your financial planner. One of the first questions you're going to ask is, can I afford this company? And so you're going to look at what you have in savings, what you can borrow, what your capital will be, and you'll get to know what your budget is for a franchise. Then the next part happens, right? So the franchisor, once you start getting into discussions about their system and you want to move forward with them to discover more, is mandated by law to disclose 23 items. Now those items, along with a copy of an example of all of the contracts they expect that you might need to sign in order to start your franchise business, are all included in something called the Franchise Disclosure Document, which is shortened to the FDD. And I'm sure some of you have heard that term. Some of you, it might be new. The important part that I want to point out about the FDD here is just a little bit of general information and then specific items that you need to bring to your CPA or financial planner's attention, right? So the first thing I want to say is that the first 23 items of the FDD are supposed to be written in plain English and are supposed to be understandable, which is fantastic. All of the contracts that I mentioned before that have to be examples are, of course, drafted to be legal binding contracts and can be sometimes difficult to read through. And normally a franchise disclosure document can be anywhere between 70 and 400 or more pages. And you don't want to bring that to your CPA to review. So let me point to a couple of items that are going to be very important to your CPA and financial planner to be able to plan with you. Item 5 covers the initial fees, what you'll have to pay to become part of the system. And then item number 6 covers any of the fees that are going to be ongoing that are paid to the franchisor or their affiliates. Item 7 discusses all of, in a table, we'll discuss all of the costs associated with getting your franchise business up and running for the first 3 months. Now, there are a couple of caveats in that item that I want to bring to your attention. The first is that nowhere in item 7 is the franchisee's salary. It's not factored in. Personal obligations vary between person to person, so any number that a franchisor would put into item 7 would not really help you with your calculation. So just know that if you need to draw an income for the first 3 months of your franchise being up and running, you should expect to get that, add that to item 7 as part of your loan or funding amount. Next is that there aren't any HR or staffing expenses included in item 7. Again, because minimum wage or salaries and employment benefits really widely vary between one geographic location and another geographic location, like California minimum wage versus Minnesota or Kentucky minimum wage, totally different. And so again, those numbers would not be very beneficial to you. They are not mandated by law to be in there, and you will not see them. And therefore, depending on how many employees you need for your franchise business, you need to figure in those wages and hour, as well as any other staffing costs associated with that franchise business in the first 3 months into that item 7. And your CPA or financial planner can help you with that. Next is item 19. Item 19 is the franchisor's representations, financial representations. These numbers can be a variety of different things. They can actually make no representations at all, or they can include gross profits. They can include gross sales. They can include number of new customers that typically come in a month. They can do the average ticket sale. So there is a bunch of different things that the franchisor can highlight and show to you here. The important thing for you to know is that the franchisor is not allowed to cherry pick franchisees to include in these representations. So if a franchisor is going to give you a number, it needs to be a number that is the average for all of the franchisees in the system, or a number in which all of the franchisees are represented. And so that way, it's not just their superstar franchisee showing how much money you can make. But just know that going in and when you're reviewing that item 19. So with your CPA, you want to see if you can extrapolate enough information from the FDD to create a realistic business model, which will show you, whether or not it's a sound financial investment for you. Okay, next up, consulting your franchise attorneys. We like to think of ourselves as your best friend through this whole process. So feel free to consult us early. We can help you with franchise connections such as a CPA, a financial planner, a franchise consultant, a CCIM. And so we can really help you connect to the pros that you need. I also want to emphasize just for a moment that it's very important to speak to a franchise attorney, not a general practitioner or a business attorney. Franchise is actually considered intellectual property law and is federally regulated. And the big thing here, though, is just the amount of experience franchise attorneys have looking at franchise disclosures documents, drafting franchise disclosure documents, looking at franchise agreements and seeing and experiencing how franchise agreements play out on a day-to-day basis, because that really truly helps us tap into that experience to help you know whether or not it's a match for you. So when we review the disclosure document, which is this next bullet point, we are going to sit down with you or have a phone call with you or a Zoom with you, as the case may be. We're going to ask about your exit strategy before you even start. We're going to ask about whether or not you're going to be an absentee owner or whether or not you want to work in the business, the franchise business every day. Because in the franchise agreement, there are those clauses and terms. And so if you tell me, I'm interested in a franchise, I still am going to work 40 hours a week as a computer software engineer, but I want to grow this business for my son when he graduates college in 4 years. I want to turn it over to him. And I will tell you, fantastic, these are great dreams. Let's see if we can make them a reality. You bring me a franchise system, and one of the requirements is for the franchisor to be on site managing 40 hours a week. That's going to be a red flag for me. Now I'm going to bring it up. We're going to talk about it. Maybe we need to add some language about adding a designated manager, or maybe we need to look at a whole different system. But we can talk about that. And then maybe there's a transfer fee that isn't waivable when you're passing it to your son, and maybe you're going to have to pay another $20,000 or $30,000 to do that. Again, we can decide, or you can decide whether it's the right thing for you, but the franchise attorney is going to point it out and say, this doesn't align with what you told me your goal was. So we either need to modify it, or we need to rethink it, or we need a way to shoot for a solution to this difficulty. And so we can really truly be your friend when going through all of these documents and bringing things to light and to attention for you. We can also wrap right in and negotiate a franchise agreement. There are some things that are negotiable, some things that aren't negotiable. The things that aren't negotiable tend to be the things the franchisor is mandated by law to disclose for the next 10 years. So if a franchisor gives a discount to you on the initial fees, they have to disclose that for up to 10 years, depending on state law that they're in, to all other franchisees and to existing franchisees that read the FDD the next year. And so it can really truly brew some bad blood between existing franchisees and put kind of the franchisor in a world of hurt as far as attempting to get new franchisees. They're going to want the same discount that you got. Old franchisees are going to be upset that they didn't get the discount that you got. However, there are areas like transfer fees and negotiation areas like territory that we can help you with to get a little more bang for your buck and to make sure that the match truly is a match, and that 5 years down the road when you're ready to gift this franchise business to your son, you're not going to be stressed because there's this $30,000 transfer fee. Just knowing what you're getting into up front is very crucial for a franchise. We can help you with that succession planning, bringing your son in, what would happen if you were incapacitated even before he was ready to take over. What does that look like? We can help plan for those eventualities, so that the employees that are going to be relying on you will be able to fully rely on you no matter what happens. With that same kind of forward-thinking mentality, we look at partner agreements and prenups, basically meaning that if you're going to go into this business with a partner, what that looks like if one of the partners is incapacitated. What does it look like if one of the partners wants to sell? What does it look like if a partner just isn't holding up their end of the work and the deal, essentially, and how that's going to be resolved. By making those decisions and coming to those agreements before there is conflict, it can really make the road much smoother if there is conflict in the future. We can also help with company creations. It's really, truly important not to take ownership in a franchise agreement and sign as an individual, because when you do that, you put your own personal assets at risk, as well as your business assets. By forming an LLC or forming a corporation, you put a firewall between the business assets and your personal assets that truly protect your family and your assets if something goes wrong in the business. So another important step is creating an entity. An attorney is a great person to do that. We have lots of experience doing it, and we can make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Everything's buttoned up with a great operating agreement or bylaws and resolutions, and securing your EIN and all of that great stuff. We can also do lease reviews to make sure that your commercial lease has franchise-friendly terms in the lease. Another very important thing, because it's not just a standard commercial lease. Site selections and referrals to CCIM. I'm about to talk about that, but we can absolutely refer you to fantastic CCIMs that we work with all the time. Okay, so what's a CCIM and why consult with them anyways? So a CCIM is a certified commercial investment member, and they're kind of like, or you can think of them as a PhD in commercial real estate. They have a ton of deals under their belt. They've been doing it a long time, even before they start the program to become a CCIM. That means that they can take all of the data that they gather, and they can not only tell you the demographics of the area, such as if I wanted to open a coffee establishment, a franchised coffee shop in an area, they won't just tell me how many people live in the area and what their income is. A CCIM can take it several steps further and tell me the psychographics of that area. How many people in that area actually drink coffee? How many competitors for my product are there in that area? And what are the traffic differences between daytime and evening? How about weekends? Where am I going to best be able to bring in clients? Who and what are my customers, and how close am I to them and where they're going to be? Do I need to focus on online ordering? Do I need to focus on business to business? What is going to be my target customer? And so they can help minimize risk, boost your credibility for making those decisions. You can make informed decisions, and you just get a ton more data than you do with a regular commercial real estate agent. You can make a profitable decision knowing that, site A is truly better than site B or site C because of the counts and the demographics and the psychographics. So it's fantastic. It's very important. It's a crucial step. Do not skip it. It's critical. A lot of franchisors urge you also to work with their CCIMs. That's fine. You can do that. Just consult with a CCIM. It really is worth the time. Your roles and responsibilities as a franchisee. Your role, of course, is to uphold the brand, utilize intelligence tools that they give you, local marketing, spend on it, drive business into your location specifically. Remember that national marketing is about brand awareness. Local marketing is truly about getting your customers into your business. You're going to handle all of your HR and personnel, hiring, firing, scheduling, benefit packages and wages. You are going to have the operations playbook, the operating manual. Your job is to follow it. Remember that the reason that you're spending money to buy a franchise versus opening your very own business is because you have a proven blueprint. The franchisor has created the wheel, so to speak. Your job is to turn it. Find areas to improve, be engaged. Absolutely. Some of the most innovative ideas in franchising have come from the franchisees. So absolutely participate. Let your franchisor know what you think would be a great addition or great modification. Keep that communication going back and forth. Rinse and repeat. Like I said, keep the wheel turning. Okay, getting into the questions and the validations. So, what questions do I ask the franchisees? Before I get into the specific questions that you should ask, I want to talk about who you should ask first. So if I'm looking at opening a weight loss franchise in California, and I want to open it in Sacramento, do I want to call the franchisees there in the Bay Area and in Reno and in even Elk Grove, which is very close to Sacramento? The answer to that is going to be no. And the reason is that those franchisees may have clients coming from the Sacramento area already, and they will see you as competition. And what do we do to competition? Well, we might not be as honest and forthcoming as we would be if we weren't worried about that person coming in and taking our clients and competing with our business. And the other thing that we could do is call the franchisor and say, you know, I would like the Sacramento area. You already know I'm a great franchisee. Go ahead and sell it to me. And so when you're starting to ask these questions for franchisees, if you wanted to move into somewhere like Sacramento, I would find another city with the same types of demographics and psychographics that you can find it, the same type of area. And if you're looking at a coffee shop, maybe you want to look at weather so that the weather is typically the same. Maybe if you're opening an ice cream shop, weather would be important. Maybe traffic is important. So just think through that process and think of another area, or ask of the CCIM, what's another area that they have a franchisee in that I should call and ask these questions to that would not be seen as competition. And that way you start to really validate the franchise system without jeopardizing the territory of your first choice. Okay, questions specifically. First question that I would ask after letting them know that you're interested in purchasing a franchise in that system and that you're just calling to, do some due diligence and ask a few questions if they don't mind, would be, how good is the training? The franchisor's training program. The big takeaway here for all of these questions is not just asking the first question, but asking the follow-up question. So you ask, how good is the franchisor's training? And they respond, I really thought it was fantastic. They showed me how to use the accounting program really well. I feel very confident with that. I also feel very confident in making all the different coffee drinks. They really took their time and showed me the recipes and how to do it. They gave me tips on training others so I can train all of my staff. I feel very confident that I can really run the business. The only thing that I feel a little shaky on is marketing. Okay, fantastic. Have you talked to the franchisor about the way you feel about marketing, and what has been their response? Have they offered you more training? And maybe they haven't, maybe they haven't, but you're going to get information that's important to you, because maybe I am wanting to open up my coffee shop because I worked in a coffee shop all of my teenage years, all the way through high school, all the way through college, and I really do know how to make all of the coffee, so that's not a problem. And my mom's an accountant, so I'm not worried about the accounting side of things, but I know nothing about marketing, so now this is a concern. Now, if they reassure me that the franchisor has really helped them and continuing to support them, I might feel fine about it. On the flip side of that, I might have done sales for years, business to business, business to person. I might have been in marketing. That might have been my major. That's fine. So the training wasn't great on marketing. I still feel super confident going into this franchise because what I did need training on, they had a really strong program for. So again, it's about finding the match, not necessarily about just getting a good answer or the right answer. It needs to be the right answer for you. Okay. Is there anything you felt needed more training? Of course, that's going to be the follow-up question. How helpful is the operations manual is really key, because remember, that's that blueprint, that playbook, if you will, for your operation of the franchise business. So having a good, strong manual is really good. Now, if you call and they go, oh, I don't know, I haven't used the manual in, gosh, 5 years, and ask, well, why not? And it could be as simple, well, you know, the franchisor is local, I can just pick up the phone and call and ask a question, and it's faster than the manual. And that could be fine for you because maybe you're local too. Or it might be that you really do want that solid manual, but knowing what you're getting before you get into it is great. And if they say, oh, well, the manual was kind of so-so when I started, I know that the franchisor has made some changes, but I haven't kept up on them because I'm busy running the business and haven't needed it. Then talk to the franchisor about what changes they've made and take a look at those manuals and really understand what you're getting into. You can ask about national marketing. Have they seen a benefit from it? Remember that national marketing truly is supposed to be about brand awareness, so it might not drive business into the individual franchisees, but it could. And so just knowing whether or not they feel that the franchisor is making a useful, you know, a purposeful use of those funds is a good thing to ask. We have 100 more questions on our websites under our website under the articles, and we'd be happy to send them to you as well. But another question would be, are you successful? And then follow it up with, how do you define success? I'm paying my mortgage, I can put my kids through college, I'm successful, or I feel a deep gratification with the service that I'm giving and the way I'm serving my community, and I feel successful. Maybe your success isn't the same as theirs. So ask the follow-up question. How much can I expect to make in the first year, the third year, and the fifth? Knowing what you know, give me an idea. And then would you buy the same franchise again? And follow it up, right? Would you buy the same franchise again? No, I wouldn't buy another franchise shop. I wouldn't buy another coffee shop. Well, why not? Well, you know, the smell of ground coffee really makes me nauseous. Okay, might not be a problem for you. But had you stopped at, no, I wouldn't buy it again, you wouldn't know whether or not it applies to you and whether or not it's good information for you specifically and for your match. Okay, last set of validating questions for franchisees. We're going to move to franchisors. I'm running out of time. Okay, do you trust the franchisor? Why or why not? What's their greatest strength? What's their greatest weakness? Just analytical questions that really are open-ended and following up. Do you attend the regional, national meetings, conventions? Yes, I do. Well, why? Because I get fined $3,000 if I don't. Okay. What do you get from those meetings? Because normally what you want to hear is that they get a lot of training as well as time to bond and build relationships with other franchisees in the system so that they have a greater support network. Okay. Final due diligence. What questions do you ask the franchisor? What does your top franchisee have that others don't? Okay. What you want to hear here is, oh, they follow the operations manual. Or if you're fantastic at marketing, oh, they're fantastic at marketing, right? You want to hear something that you can do, because then you know that this might be a really great match for you. Oh, I can do that. I know how to do that. I've been doing that. Or I can hire someone to do that. All of that's fine. It just needs to be built into your business plan all the way back to that CPA. What's your next big upgrade, or what's coming next in the industry, right? I personally had an awesome root beer colored pager that I would take to the skating rink with me all the time when I was young. I don't know how many of you guys remember pagers, but it was fantastic. I thought I was super cool. But if you're a franchisee selling pagers, what are you selling today? It's kind of a trick question. And hopefully the answer is cell phones, because your franchisor knew that the next thing in the industry was going to be cell phones and put that into play at the appropriate time. So it is a very important question. Why should I attend the National Convention or meeting? Again, you're looking for that for training and for networking with other franchisees. Okay, what's the next position you're going to fill as far as personnel? It gives you an idea of how big or small the franchisor is. Again, our website has 100 more questions under the article section. The one other thing I will tell you is that when you go out for Discovery Day or Meet the Team Day, try to find a person that the franchisor maybe hasn't coached on what to say and talk to that person. And if it's a virtual meeting and you can't do that, call the franchisor's corporate office. See if you can talk to a receptionist or anyone that isn't directly someone who typically talks to franchisees every day. Because that way you can ask the question, what's it like working for the franchisor? And you can get an idea of what the inside culture truly is in that franchise system. Okay. If you have questions, again, or if you would like to set up that consultation with one of the attorneys in the firm, please text questions or call 512-535-0090. If you mention the Virtual Franchise Show, you're going to receive 10% off your legal services because you made it to the end of my presentation. I applaud. And you're going to also receive the 100 questions to aid yourself in your due diligence. If you send in your email address or if you call and set up that consultation, we'd be happy to send them. Remember, we're here to support you through this journey and help you find the right match for you. We want to see you succeed. Okay. And a little more contact information for the firm, if you would like. Our website is www.sla.law. And if you have any questions, please do call or text in. We'd be happy to answer them. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. I really hope that you find something amazing at the show that just seems to fit, or maybe a couple of things that would be even better to continue to do this due diligence and practice in. Thank you for your time and have a lovely day.